There we go. The recording has been started. Hello and welcome everyone to the week 2 GoTo session for TEM. How's everybody doing this evening? Hopefully all of you are doing well. Good, good, good. How did week 1 go for everyone? Did you all manage to get your assignments in and everything? One person said week 1 was easy. That's good. I can actually hear that. Week 1 went well. Awesome. Awesome. Just be aware that it is only Tuesday, so if you do not have a grade yet, don't panic. I guarantee you they are coming. Typically, we try to have everything graded for all of you by Thursday or Friday at the latest, preferably sooner when we can, but we've got a number of online sections this month, so we're getting through them as quickly as we possibly can. So if you don't have a grade yet, rest assured that your grade will be coming soon. So once again, welcome to the week 2 session. My name is Chad Pusick, and I'll be hosting tonight's session, as well as the next two that we're going to be having. We've got an okay turnout tonight, 27 of us so far, so that's not bad. Before I get started here with week 2's assignments, does anybody have any questions they want to ask me right off the bat? I'm going to assume that since nobody has said anything, nobody has any questions, at least so far. So in that case, I think we will get started. So this week, once again, you've got two projects. Your first project is going to be the industry growth project. And then the second project this week is going to be your industry terms project. So it's going to be all about kind of getting you more in touch with the various your industries and maybe a couple other ones as well. Don't forget, each one of our projects is obviously meant to educate, practicing self-awareness and iteration, being successful in a virtual world, because that is a challenge in and of itself sometimes. Skill building, which is attention to detail, completing your projects on time, meeting deadlines, self-discovery, a little bit of reporting here and there. And then, of course, lastly, career building, networking, collaboration, building trust, polishing your deliverables and whatnot. Polishing your deliverables, I just want to touch on that for a second. Make sure that all of you are reading your rubrics carefully. The ones I've graded so far, most of them pretty good, but some of you did not do the customization part. So make sure that you read your rubrics carefully when it calls for that. So your plan of attack. Now, hopefully, you guys will be able, all of you will be able to use your plan of attack throughout the month. Once again, don't forget, your plan of attack is not written in stone. So, things happen, things come up, weddings come up, events come up, somebody gets sick, that comes up and everything. So while the plan of attack is not, obviously the plan of attack is not set in stone, it's just there as a reminder to make sure that you guys are planning to have some time put aside to get your projects completed throughout the week. This is going to be very important for this class, and I would say even doubly so for your future classes. As you get further along in your degree program, your core classes, no matter what degree program you're in, get much harder and in many cases much, much more time consuming. So having kind of a plan of attack is crucial to being successful here at Full Sail. And once again, make sure that in addition to reading your instructions. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to class. Make sure that in addition to reading your instructions, you are reading the rubrics as well. Your instructions will tell you how to do a project. Your instructions and your rubric will tell you how to get the most points possible. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you're reviewing that rubric as well. So, getting into the projects themselves, the 2.1 Industry Growth Project. What does this entail? This is actually one of my favorite projects to do for this class because it gives you a chance to really start looking ahead at where your future is going to be. And what I mean by that is what the future of your industries is going to be. So you're going to be taking a look at your degrees and your industries in the near future and the far future as well. And then you're going to be discussing your place inside of that future. Things change very, very rapidly in the in the all of the industries that you guys are in, all the technology industries. A story that I always share with my campus class is I graduated computer animation. That was the first degree that I ever got, computer animation. And the day that I graduated computer animation, ZBrush was released on the exact same day. Now, I'm willing to bet that some of you in game art and computer animation can understand how frustrating that might have been. So, once again, industries change very, very quickly. So you have to understand what your place is going to be in that industry and how you're going to adjust to those changes. So what exactly do you need to do for this particular project? Well, this project is a discussion post. Many of you have already done discussion posts before in CRP and PYP and whatnot. But just to go over it again, your discussion post is posted into the discussion board itself. You have a couple of ways to do this. You can type it out directly into the discussion board, or you could do it in a Word document and then upload the PDF. One thing I want everyone to be aware of, if you decide to go that second route, so you decide to save it out as a PDF and upload it to the discussion board, you still have to type something into the discussion board when you upload a file. It can be something very simple, something like, hello everyone, here is my discussion post for the week. You just have to have something in there in the text box for the discussion board before it will actually take a file. Or once again, the first alternative is to just do everything itself, right in the discussion board itself. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys when you're working with discussion boards. But what exactly do you need to do for this project? Well, there's a number of things that you want to get done. First, you want to take a look at your industry and write a paragraph describing as you currently see it. It has to be specific to your degree program. So if you're in game design, you want to do the game design industry. Now, if other aspects kind of cross over, such as the game art side into that, that's fine, but it should primarily be about your degree program. So the first part is looking at your industry, and then you're going to write a solid paragraph, at least 5 sentences or so, describing your industry as you currently see it. Is it a good industry? Is it a tough industry? What are some of the things that what are some of the trends you might be starting to see and whatnot? That's going to be your first paragraph. You also need to cite at least one source, and I'm going to cover citations here towards the end of this. The next paragraph, Evan says, I want to write it out in Google Docs and copy and paste it into the post. That is a good idea. I would recommend that if you are going to post it directly into the discussion board, what you should do is either write it out in Google Docs or Word Doc or whatever your word processing software of choice is, save it, and then copy and paste it, just in case. You never know. If you lost internet or something while you were typing everything out, you run the risk of losing everything. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you type it out into another program first and just copy and paste. So for the next one, or the next paragraph, you're going to write another one that talks about where you see your industry growing in the next 5 to 10 years. So how do you see your industry evolving in the next 5 or 10 years or so? That's it for that one. And you also want to have a source cited for that one. Your third paragraph, and this is one of my favorite ones. This is actually my favorite part of the project. Write a third paragraph that talks about where you see your industry in the next 25 years. Now, 25 years is a very, very long way off. So, the reason I like this particular paragraph is because, in a way, you could, well, go nuts, honestly. Whatever wacky thing you can think of that could possibly be feasible in 25 years, feel free to share it. If you think that we're going to have holodecks like they do in Star Trek, then by all means, you can write that out. I've had plenty of students do that. If you think that we're going to have head jacks that go directly into our brains, and we can just beam information in. That's creepy, but you never know, right? So the third paragraph, you could, yeah, like Landon said here, let your imagination run wild a bit. As long as you keep it within to the realm of somewhat reasonable. How about that? Somewhat reasonable. But once again, 25 years is a long ways off. Will we be even creating content, or will we be having the robots create content? Yeah, you never know. Now, for the third paragraph does not require you to have a citation. So just the first two paragraphs require you to have some sort of citation about them. The third one does not, because once again, it's going to be we're going to be talking about the far future, so to speak. So there might not be as much information on there about that. In the fourth paragraph, you want to talk where you want your career to be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years and what you plan to do to make sure that you get there. So where are you going to be in the upcoming years? What are your goals? What steps are you going to take to get there? And then lastly, just kind of summarize everything in your last paragraph. Now, this is going to be part of your initial post. There's two different times that you need to post for this project. You need to have your initial post, and that must be completed by Thursday or on Thursday at the latest. You can certainly turn it in sooner. That's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, we encourage that. But your initial post needs to be completed by Thursday. After that, you need to reply to at least 4 of your classmates with a paragraph response for each one. Use the RISE model. If you've never heard of that, I will type it in here really quick. It's just called RISE model or response post. Oops, apparently I can't spell. There we go, RISE model. You want to use the RISE model for this. This will help you engage your fellow peers. What we don't want to see is stuff like, good job, I really liked your post. That's not what we want to see. We want to, that doesn't really engage the end user, so to speak. You want to have something that will try to elicit more questions or more conversations. Once again, going back to being in an online model, communication can be different. Oh, yes, keep it relevant as well. Obviously, keep your response posts relevant. If you want to talk about the wackiness of the next 25 years, by all means, you are encouraged to do so. That's perfectly fine, but you do want to keep it relevant to the project itself. That's very good. Reflect, inquire, suggest, and elevate. That's a good algorithm. That's right, Michael. That's almost the RISE model. Actually, that is the RISE model. So it works out very well. Using the RISE model, you should be able to get a good solid paragraph for your response post. And you need to do 4 of those. And the response posts must be completed by Sunday, or on Sunday, I should say. Summarize your plan is essentially just kind of going over everything that you wrote previously, breaking everything down for you. Just a quick summary of your steps and your plan itself, what you want to do to get to where you want to be. I know we kind of discussed that in paragraph 4 as well, but paragraph 5 is just kind of the summary of everything that you wrote. Now, as I said, the first 2 paragraphs do require you to do some citations. Now, in the instructions here, and like I said, this, yes, chapter 4, explain it, chapter 5, break it down. So this is directly from the instructions on this page. So we do have the example here of citing a source. To cite a source, you have to have the last name, comma, first name of the author, the year that the article was written, the title of the source, and then the source link, whether it be a URL, a book, a magazine. You guys remember books, right? There are those things that are made out of paper. You find them in places called libraries and stuff. I miss books, honestly. I'm still a book guy. That's part of my old, yeah, those wacky objects, books. I'm still very much a book guy. I think that's one thing I'll never quite grow out of. I do read some. I've read a couple books on my my Galaxy tablet, but it's just not the same for me. So once again, last name, comma, first name, the year of the author, the title of the source, and then the link of the source. And once again, we do have an example for you. Just what we need is on this page. And then right underneath that, left side of this page where it says Ripley, comma, Ellen, 1992, Aliens, Friend or Foe, Wayland Industries Press, and then they give the website. Yeah, that was totally made up by us, but it is a good example of how you would do a source. If you need any help with the sources or anything, projectapa.info is going to be your best friend. I will put that in there, projectapa.info. Oh, hold on one sec, everyone. My cat wants out. Sorry about that. He didn't want out that badly, I guess. Um, so if you have an article without an author, just put unknown. So if you do see that, just put down unknown author. The question: what if you can't find the name of the author or the year? Once again, unknown for both. Can the source be something other than an article or a book? Yes, it can be. It can be an article, book, website link, or video is perfectly fine as well. If it's a video, you just put the name of the video and then the link to the video itself, unless you actually happen to find a movie that would relate. That has come up a few times where people have found like a documentary or something that works. And yes, website articles are perfectly fine. That's primarily where the citations are going to come from, anyways, is websites. Do you want the text and citations, or do you want a works cited page? Uh, you can just put the citations at the end of the post. Blog posts are okay to use as well, but if you're using blog posts, make sure that you're using blog posts that make sense, so to speak. In other words, like if it's a blog post from a well-known person in your industry, that's perfectly fine. It's a good idea to check to see what your source is first. If you're using a book, you just give us the title of the book and the year of the book. As far as sources you want to refrain from using, not so much in this project, but the next project, there are a couple, and I'm going to talk about that when we get there. Now, on this page that I have up here, this is an example of some of the projects that have been done, primarily just to show you the length of these projects. There is no customization required on this project. If you want to add some, you are more than welcome to do so. However, it is not required of you to have customization on this particular project. Oh, my bad here. We actually do have a source we don't want you to use. Do not use Wikipedia as a source. That's not usually an issue for this project, but it does come up quite a bit for the next one, and I'll discuss why here in a bit. So just going over the rubric, make sure I'll just cover the exceptional column. You have the project. The initial post is made no later than Thursday, and you have no spelling or grammar errors. You've got 5 or more paragraphs with 5 sentences each. All the sources are cited correctly. You've answered all the questions thoroughly. And then lastly, the peer replies. The peer replies are worth 20 points, so do not neglect them. Many times I see students that have submitted a project, but they don't do any of the peers. So even if you did great on your initial post, if you don't do the peer replies, the best you can get is an 80. So make sure that you do your peer replies. Once again, William, for this project, it does not require customization. The next project does, and I will show you some examples of that. Okay, are there any questions on that project? How many additional paragraphs should we strike? As long as you cover the 5, you'll be perfectly fine. If you cover the 5 paragraphs, you should be perfectly fine for this project and doing your response post as well. And just to reiterate, your initial post is due Thursday and your response posts are due on Sunday. Any other questions on that project? All right. Well, moving right along then. The 2.2 Industry Terms Project. Shannon just asked, are we typing this directly into the discussion board? You can if you want to. If you want to type it directly into the discussion board, that's fine. If you want to save it out, if you want to type it up in Word or something and save it out as a PDF, you can upload that PDF file instead. Just be sure, once again, if you do upload it as a PDF, you still have to type something in the text box. It can be something simple like, here is my post for the week. That's perfectly fine. If you don't type anything into a discussion board, it actually won't let you upload any files at all. Kind of odd, I know, but that's just how it works. Yeah, Google Docs is an excellent idea. Even in some cases better than Word, just because Google Docs saves everything as you go along. So if you do suffer a power outage, you're literally going to pick up at whatever the last keystroke was. Whereas Word, if you didn't save it, you run the risk of losing it. And Landon makes a good point too. Have backups of everything. I'm rabid about multiple backups. I have 2 external hard drives just to back up important information because I'm not gonna lie, because I'm deeply paranoid about losing information. So that's just me. This is going to be doubly true as you move along in your degree programs. If you have any way to back up information, whether it be an external hard drive or whether it be a space online that you have to just upload files, I highly recommend that you have something. Things tend to fail at the worst possible time. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you have backups of all your information. I've been a teacher now for just over 14 years. I've seen too many students lose massive projects like the day before they were due. So it's a good idea to make sure that you save stuff. So the 2.2 industry terms. Now, this project is going to be a little bit longer than your last one. This one's going to require you to do a little bit more research. What you're going to do, you're going to choose 7 terms from your degree program and explain them in your own words. So it's kind of like writing definitions, but the definitions have to be in your own words. You must have a reference for each one of those terms. Do not just find one website that will cover every term. That's not what we want to see. We want to see you using different websites as well. And those. I had somebody unmuted by accident. Sorry about that. There we go. So you want to find 7 terms from your degree program, explain what those terms are, and then find a reference for each one of those terms, and those references must be cited. Once again, you have to have the correct citations, and we have the example is just the exact same one that I went through previously. Last name, first name of the author, the year the source was there, the title of the source, and then the source link or URL. So once again, you can use videos, you can use websites, you can use books, whatever it is that you might want to use. Can you use the same source for multiple terms? Preferably not. We don't mind some overlap, so to speak, but you can't use like one source for all of your terms. So we do want you to have other sources for your terms. Next up, that's the first part of your project. The second part of the project is you're going to do the same exact thing, Yes, cite source for the example. The definition's written in your words, but for the example of what you got it from, that's what you're going to be citing. The second part of the project is you're going to do 7 more terms, and they are going to be from a different degree program. So, for example, if you are in game design, you'll do 7 from game design and then another 7 from game art or software development or mobile development. Now, if you want to break this up, if you have to do 7 from yours, but the other 7 can come from multiple degree programs. So if you want to do 7 from your program, 3 from mobile development, and 4 from web development, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. Just make sure that your first 7 terms are all from your degree program. So in total, you're going to have 14 different terms. And this project does require you to have some customization to it, and it needs to be saved out as a PDF file. Very happy to see there's only a couple of you, at least in my classes, that did not upload as PDF. The majority of you uploaded it as a PDF, so thank you very much for doing that. Do the explanations have to be a whole paragraph? No, they're not going to be a whole paragraph for each one. Probably a couple sentences or so for each one. And yes, it has to be a PDF file. Once again, usually for a PDF file, it kind of depends on the program, but usually it's a file export as or file save as, and then you select PDF from the list. I know that's true for Word, and I believe that's true for Google Docs as well. Now, print it, yes, thank you. Print to PDF, that's another one too. Thank you, Alistair. I always forget that one. Usually for me, it's just export to PDF. Now we have 3 examples here. This is to show the various customization levels. The one on the left is okay. They have good information, but there's really not any customization at all to the project. It's just text. So you kind of want to avoid that one. The one in the middle is pretty good. It's got some customization. It's got a color background, whatnot. You don't have to color the background, but it's got colored boxes and whatnot. They've kind of broken out their definition. They've kind of broken out what their citation is, what their source is, and whatnot. It's pretty good. The one on the far right is very good, mostly because that has images to go along with the project. Now, if you're looking at this one here and it looks like somebody did this in Keynote or PowerPoint, that's because they did. You could conceivably actually have a lot of students that do this in PowerPoint and just export the PowerPoint out as PDF. So that's another option to you as well. I think you can use Draw.io. It's up to you as long as you can get everything in there and make it look good, and you can save it as a PDF. As far as what the best program is for this project, honestly, Josh, that's kind of up to you. If you're really good with Word and not as good with PowerPoint, use Word. If you're really good with PowerPoint or Keynote, by all means, use those programs. PowerPoint is nice because it's just a little bit easier to keep everything organized, but Word is just as fine as well. I've seen plenty of projects, plenty of students use Word for this project, and they turn out just fine. It kind of depends on what you want to use. So whatever you're most comfortable with is perfectly fine. I think I've had a couple students use Canvas that seem to turn out okay. The key is to make sure that you can save it out as a PDF. And this project is due on Sunday. So you have all week for this project. Now in the instructions, and I'm not going to cover all of them, we have a number of different definitions that you could use if you'd like. If you find other ones that are not on the list, and there's definitely going to be some, but if you find some that are not in the list, that's perfectly fine. If you find your own definitions in your research, I am perfectly okay with that as well. You find some new words that we didn't have on the list. Yeah, Alistair, sometimes Word does that. It just does not want to print out the background. Are there definitions for each degree? Yes, there should be. And once again, they are included with the instructions. This is actually included in the instructions pages. And if you do find other words that are not on the list, then awesome, because that means you guys are doing your own research as well. And that's great. That's what we want to see. So just to kind of go over the rubric, once again, the exceptional column, you'll have it submitted by Sunday in PDF format, correct naming convention. Remember, correct naming convention is last name, first name, and then the number of the project. So in my case, it would be Pusick Chad 2.2. You've done all 7 terms from your industry and the 7 terms from another connected industry. And then lastly, you have customization on the project as well. A good rule of thumb for customization is using images. Now, I'm not saying you have to have images for every single term, but if you have them for like half or something of it, that's fine. And as for the second 7, yes, you can mix them. So just make sure the first 7 are from your degree program, and the second 7 can be all from one other one, or you can have a mix of 2 and 5, 3 and 4, 1 and 6, whatever the combinations are. Now, before questions, I open up to questions. There's a couple sites we don't want you to use. No, you do not need to credit the images yet. You're going to learn more about that in English. So for right now, it's just going to be the terms themselves. As long as you have the 14, you'll be in the exceptional column. Just to reiterate, too, do not use Wikipedia for this site at all. Also, do not use dictionary sites for this as well. We want you to find like other industry sites, so try to avoid dictionary sites as well. Now, Wikipedia, now that I said you aren't supposed to use it, let me tell you how you can use it. And I believe somebody else earlier in the chat actually pointed this out. No, we don't really allow Wikipedia at all. But what you can do is if you find something on Wikipedia, many times Wikipedia will have that source itself. You can then follow that source and use that as your source for the project. So in some ways, Wikipedia does a little bit of the legwork for you. So if you use Wikipedia, you find something you like, Wikipedia has it sourced, you can follow that source and use that. If Wikipedia does not have a source for it, then you're out of luck. Correct. Follow the link to the source, but don't actually use the wiki site itself. Yeah, it does work well for that. So I love Wikipedia. It's great. Just most colleges will not accept that as a source, but Wikipedia does a lot of the sourcing for you. And just make sure that you format it to APA standards. Wikipedia does, I mean, they show some of the how they do the citations, but it's not APA. So you want to make sure that you are doing APA citations. And once again, let me just type that in for you guys, projectapa.info. I would highly recommend bookmarking that site. That's going to be your best friend for citations while you're here at Full Sail. It goes through pretty much every type of source that you could think of if you needed to cite it in APA. Are there any questions on the 2.2 project? Yes, I will go back. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I know it's around here. I'm going to find it. There it is. There we go. So the citations are up on this page. And once again, this is in your instructions. So no, we don't need a citation for each of the images, just for the sources. Oh, I'm sorry, Evan, I misread your question. No, you don't need an image for each of the definitions. Uh, doing half of them, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you have images on there. User experience, user interface is primarily a term that is found in graphic design. I'm sorry, it's primarily found in web and mobile design. It crosses over because graphic design actually, like if you play any game, are you a gamer, Josh? If you don't mind me asking. Some. Okay, so but you're familiar with it. So let's say you're playing like Mass Effect or something like that. A lot of times the user interface for games are actually designed by graphic design students. A lot of graphic design students don't realize that. But yeah, a lot of interfaces for games are done by graphic designers. Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, I'll hang out here for a little bit. But at this point, you guys are now all free to go. We had turn on of 45 people. That's pretty good for this evening. Once again, thank you everyone for showing up. I hope you have a great evening. I'm glad to hear that week one went well for many of you. I'm sure week two will be just as good for you guys as week one was. Once again, we will be having a session next week on Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But as it is right now, that is all I've got for you. Thank you everyone for showing up. And once again, I will hang out here a little bit longer in case there's any last minute questions. Thank you for coming out, everyone.